Captain stood on the bridge of the warship Indomitable, watching the stars drift past the. His crew moved around him with practiced efficiency, checking systems and monitoring the endless void of space. They had been patrolling this sector for 3 weeks without incident. The Allied territories were quiet, almost too quiet. Lieutenant Hay looked up from her console, her dark eyes narrowing. "Captain, I'm picking up something strange on the long-range scanners." Walked over to her station. "What kind of something?" "It's a distress signal, sir. Very weak, coming from inside the Scorched Nebula." Hay's fingers moved across her controls, trying to clean up the signal. "It's definitely alien, not human code." Engineer Sung emerged from the maintenance shaft near the back of the bridge, wiping grease from his hands. "Did someone say the Scorched Nebula? That place is a nightmare. Radiation storms, gravity wells, asteroids everywhere. No sane captain would fly through there." "Which is probably why someone needs help," said quietly. He turned to Hay. "Can you identify the source?" Hay worked for another moment, then shook her head. "The interference is too strong, but based on the signal pattern, I think it's civilian transport, maybe." A murmur went through the bridge crew. Everyone knew about the. They were one of the most fragile species in the galactic community. They had low gravity and a gentle climate. They were tall and thin, with delicate bones that could break from impacts that a human wouldn't even notice. They were also terrified of humans. Had seen it firsthand during diplomatic meetings. The representatives would flinch whenever a human moved too quickly. They called humans, because Earth was so harsh compared to other planets. High gravity, extreme weather, dangerous animals, deadly diseases. They couldn't understand how anything could evolve in such conditions and not become monsters. "Sir, we're receiving a priority message from command," the communications officer announced. Pressed a button on his chair, put it through. The face of Admiral Park appeared on the screen. She looked tired. "Captain, I'm aware of the distress signal. Several other ships in the sector have picked it up as well." "Are they responding?" asked. The Admiral shook her head. "No, the Scorched Nebula is too dangerous. The government has already written off whoever is in there. They don't expect anyone to risk a rescue attempt." Felt something cold settle in his stomach. They're just leaving them to die. The radiation alone would kill most species within hours. The gravity fluctuations would tear apart any ship not built for extreme conditions. The Admiral paused. "Captain, I'm not ordering you to respond, but I know you. You're going to want to go in there." "With respect, sir, we have to try." Admiral Park sighed. "I thought you'd say that. Listen carefully. Earth's reputation in the galactic community is built on fear. We're the monsters from the warriors nobody wants to fight. If you go charging in to rescue a bunch of civilians, some people will see it as weakness." "Let them," said firmly. A small smile crossed the Admiral's face. "Good answer. You have authorization to proceed, but be careful. The Scorched Nebula earned its name. Bring your people home." The transmission ended, stood and turned to his crew. They were all watching him, waiting. These men and women had served with him for years. They had fought pirates, defended colonies, and explored uncharted space. He trusted them with his life. "Helm, set a course for the Scorched Nebula. Maximum speed." "Aye, sir," the helmsman responded. Sung climbed fully onto the bridge, his tool belt clanking. "Captain, if we're going into that radiation storm, I'll need to boost the shields. It's going to drain power from other systems." "Do what you need to do," said Lieutenant Hay. "Keep trying to raise that distress signal. I want to know what we're dealing with before we arrive." As the Indomitable changed course, the crew went to work. Sung disappeared into the engineering sections, shouting orders to his team. Hay hunched over her console, adjusting frequencies and filters. The rest of the bridge crew prepared for emergency conditions. Watched as the nebula grew closer. It looked like a wound in space, a swirling mass of red and orange gas lit from within by dying stars. Radiation poured out of it in waves. Any normal ship would have to turn back, but human ships weren't normal. They were built tough because humans came from a planet that tried to kill them every day. "Captain, I've got something," Hay announced. "The signal is clearing up. It's definitely, and they're not alone." "Explain." Hay's face went pale. "Sir, there are multiple signals. The transport is under attack. I'm reading at least 3 other ships. The energy signatures match known raider vessels." His hands clenched into fists. Raiders were the worst kind of criminal. They attacked the weak, stole cargo, and often took slaves to sell on black market worlds. If they had trapped a transport in the nebula, they had probably disabled the engines and were now looting the ship. "How long until we reach them?" asked. "At current speed, 40 minutes, the helmsman replied. "Can the hold out that long?" Hay shook her head. "I don't know, sir. Their life support systems are failing. Even without the raiders, they might not survive." Made his decision. "Helm, push the engines to 110%. Sung, I need those shields at maximum." Sung's voice crackled over the intercom. "Already on it, Captain, though I should mention this is going to be rough on the ship." "The ship can take it, those people can't." The Indomitable surged forward, plunging into the outer edges of the nebula. The filled with swirling clouds of radioactive gas. Warning alarms began to sound as radiation levels climbed. The ship shook as gravity waves buffeted the hull. On the bridge, the crew held onto their stations. This was what human ships were made for. This was what human crews trained for. Other species saw the universe as a gentle place, full of wonder and beauty. Humans knew better. The universe was dangerous, hostile, and utterly indifferent to whether you lived or died. But that was okay. Humans were dangerous too. "Captain, I've got a visual on the transport," Hay said, "putting it on screen now." The image appeared and felt his anger grow. The ship was small and elegant, designed for peaceful trade routes. It hung dead in space, its engines dark. 3 raider vessels circled it like sharks, their weapons ports open. As watched, one of the raiders fired a shot across the transport's bow. "They're toying with them," Sung said over the intercom, his voice disgusted. "Not for long," replied. "Battle stations, all hands, this is the captain, we're going in." Throughout the Indomitable, alarms blared as the crew rushed to their posts. Weapons came online. Fighters prepared to launch. Marines grabbed their gear and headed for the boarding bays. The human warship accelerated through the deadly nebula, heading straight for the raiders. They were coming, and someone was about to learn what that really meant. The raiders saw them coming. Of course they did. The Indomitable wasn't trying to be stealthy. The human warship tore through the nebula like a hammer through glass, its shields blazing as they deflected radiation and debris. On the bridge, Lieutenant Hay monitored the enemy ships. "Sir, the raiders are hailing us. They want to talk." Captain's voice was cold. "Ignore them. Tactical, target their weapons and engines. I want them disabled, not destroyed." "Aye, Captain," the tactical officer replied, her fingers dancing across her console. Down in the fighter bay, Pilot Wu climbed into his cockpit. Around him, 24 other pilots were doing the same. The bay was organized chaos as mechanics performed last-minute checks and loaded ammunition. Wu's squadron leader's voice came through his helmet. "All fighters, this is lead. Remember, our job is to keep the raiders away from that transport. Watch each other's backs out there." "Copy that, lead," Wu responded, running through his pre-flight checklist. His fingers moved on instinct, checking systems he could operate in his sleep. He had grown up on Earth, in the high mountains where the air was thin and the gravity was heavy. Flying came naturally to him. The bay doors opened and space rushed in. Wu felt his heart race with anticipation. This was what he lived for. "Launch," the squadron leader ordered. 24 human fighters shot out into the nebula. Immediately, the radiation hit them. Wu's cockpit alarms screamed warnings, but he ignored them. His fighters' shields were holding. Barely. The raiders had scrambled their own fighters, cheap mass-produced things that were meant to scare civilians. They outnumbered the humans 2-1. "Contact," someone shouted over the comm. "Multiple bogies incoming." Wu saw them on his scanner, 50 red dots swarming toward the human formation. He grinned inside his helmet. Bad odds. He liked bad odds. The two fighter groups collided in a swirl of laser fire and missiles. Wu twisted his controls, sending his craft into a spin that would have crushed a pilot under the G-forces. His targeting computer locked onto an enemy fighter and he fired, watching the raider explode. All around him, the battle raged. The raiders flew in predictable patterns, probably following basic combat programs. The humans flew like they were insane, pulling maneuvers that ignored safety limits and pushed their bodies to the edge of blackout. "Wu, you've got 3 on your tail," his wingman warned. "I see them," Wu replied calmly. He dove toward a cluster of asteroids, flying between rocks that were separated by barely more than his ship's width. The raiders tried to follow. 2 of them crashed into the asteroids. The third kept coming. Wu flew into a tunnel through a larger asteroid, a gap so narrow his wingtips almost scraped the sides. The raider hesitated for just a second. That was enough. Wu's wingman came from above and took the shot. "Thanks for the save," Wu said. "Any time. Now get back to the formation." On the Indomitable, Captain watched the fighter battle while monitoring the larger tactical situation. The 3 raider ships were trying to position themselves between his ship and the transport. "Captain, we're being hailed again," Hay said. "The raider commander is threatening to kill the hostages if we don't back off." His jaw tightened. "How many hostages?" Hay's fingers flew across her console. "Scanning the transport now. Sir, this is worse than we thought. I'm reading 3 separate ships, the main transport and 2 smaller vessels. There are over 300 on board, including... Captain, one of those ships is a school transport. There are children." The bridge went silent. Everyone stared at where the fragile vessels hung in space, surrounded by predators. Engineer Sung's voice came through the intercom. "Captain, I'm reading power fluctuations in the transport's life support. If they lose those systems, everyone on board dies. They've got maybe an hour." Stood from his chair. "We don't have an hour. Helm, take us in. Full attack pattern. Tactical, fire as soon as you have a clean shot." "Sir, the raiders," someone began, "are about to learn why you don't threaten children in front of humans." Finished. "Execute." The Indomitable accelerated. Its main guns, weapons designed to punch through military-grade armor, opened fire. The first raider ship tried to run, but it was too slow. The human weapons tore through its shields and ripped into its engines. The ship went dark, dead in space. The second raider panicked. Instead of fighting, its crew tried to board the transport, probably planning to use the civilians as human shields. They didn't make it. Pilot Wu and his squadron were waiting. The human fighters strafed the raider vessel, destroying its boarding tubes and leaving it crippled. The third raider decided to fight. It was larger than the others, probably the flagship. It turned to face the Indomitable, its weapons charging. "Incoming fire," the tactical officer warned. The raider's weapons hit the Indomitable's shields. The ship shuddered, but the shields held. Human shields were designed to survive atmospheric re-entry on a raider's guns were barely an inconvenience. "Return fire," ordered. The Indomitable's response was devastating. Its weapons hammered the raider ship, overwhelming its defenses in seconds. The raider tried to flee, but Sung had anticipated that. He had already targeted the ship's engines with an electromagnetic pulse. The raider went dark. All 3 enemy ships now floated helpless in space. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the transport," Hay said. "Audio only. They sound terrified." "Put them through." A voice filled the bridge, thin and trembling. It spoke in Galactic Common, the trade language most species used. "Unknown vessel, please. Please don't hurt us. We surrender. We have children on board, please." Captain felt something twist in his chest. They thought the humans were there to hurt them. "This is Captain of the human warship Indomitable," he said, keeping his voice as gentle as he could. "We received your distress signal. We're here to help." There was a long silence. Then the voice came back, confused and disbelieving. "You're human." "Yes, and you're safe now. The raiders have been disabled." Paused. "But we're reading critical failures in your life support systems. How many people are on your ships?" 317, the voice replied. "Most of them are students and teachers. We were evacuating a colony when the raiders attacked and chased us into the nebula. Our engines failed and we've been trapped here for 2 days." 2 days in this radiation. Couldn't imagine how they had survived even that long. "What's your life support status?" asked. "Failing. The radiation is destroying our systems faster than we can repair them. We have perhaps 40 minutes of breathable air left." The voice broke. "We sent the distress call to everyone. No one came. We thought we would die here." "You're not going to die," said firmly. "We're going to get you out, all of you." He turned to his crew. "Sung, I need you to assess those ships. Can we tow them out of the nebula?" Sung's voice came back immediately. "Negative, Captain. Their hulls are too damaged. The stress of towing would tear them apart." "Then we evacuate them. How fast can we do it?" Dr. Bo's voice joined the conversation. The chief medical officer had been listening from the medical bay. "Captain, they can't survive in our environment. Our gravity is too high. Our air pressure is too strong. If we try to bring them aboard without proper equipment, we'll kill them just as surely as the raiders would have." Looked at those fragile ships full of frightened people. "Then we make proper equipment. We have 40 minutes, make it work." All across the Indomitable, the crew sprang into action. This was going to be the most difficult rescue operation any of them had ever attempted. They were going to save people who were terrified of them, using equipment that didn't exist yet, in an environment that was actively trying to kill everyone involved. But they were humans. They came from difficult was just another word for Tuesday. Engineer Sung ran through the corridors of the Indomitable, his mind racing faster than his feet. 40 minutes to save 300. It was impossible, which meant he had to do it anyway. "Engineering team, report to Cargo Bay 3, he shouted into his communicator. "Medical team, I need you there too. And someone get me every piece of flexible material we have on this ship." Dr. Bo was already in the cargo bay when Sung arrived. The doctor was a calm presence in any crisis, but even he looked worried. "We need to create a low-gravity, low-pressure environment," Bo said without preamble. "They literally cannot survive our standard ship conditions. Their bones will break under our gravity. Our air pressure will damage their lungs." "I know," Sung replied, pulling up schematics on a cargo bay terminal. "We're going to section off the bay, reduce the gravity field, and lower the atmospheric pressure. It'll be like creating a ship inside our ship." "In 40 minutes, Bo asked. "In 30, Sung corrected. "We need 10 minutes to actually move people." The engineering teams poured into the cargo bay, carrying materials. Sung started giving orders, his hands moving as fast as his words. They built walls using emergency bulkheads. They rerouted the gravity plating, creating a zone of near-zero gravity. They adjusted the atmospheric processors to create a separate air system. It was crude, done at speed, and violated about 50 safety regulations. It was also brilliant. Meanwhile, Commander was gathering his Marines in the docking bay. These men and women were warriors, trained for combat in every environment imaginable. Now they were about to become rescue workers. "Listen up," said, his voice carrying across the bay. "We're going into those ships to evacuate civilians. They're scared, they're hurt, and they think we're monsters, so we're going to prove them wrong." The Marines nodded. Many of them had children of their own back on Earth. The thought of kids trapped on a dying ship made their blood run cold. "We'll be working in heavy radiation," continued. "Your suits will protect you for about 20 minutes. After that, you start taking damage. But those people have been in this for 2 days with no protection at all. We can handle 20 minutes." Medic stepped forward. He was young for a combat medic, but he had volunteered for every difficult assignment since joining the crew. "Sir, permission to go in first. I want to assess the medical situation." "Granted," said. "Take a team with you." On the bridge, Lieutenant was trying to keep the calm. She had switched to a private channel with the transport captain, a female named. "Captain, my name is. I'm a human officer and I need you to trust me." "Trust you?" His voice was shaking. You come from a planet of monsters." Took a deep breath. "I understand you're scared, but right now we're the only chance you have. My crew is preparing a safe space for your people. We're going to bring you aboard our ship." "Your gravity will kill us," said. "We've adjusted it. We've made a special area just for you." There was a pause. Why would you do this for us?" Looked at Captain, he nodded at her. She spoke from her heart. "Because you need help, that's reason enough." The first team of Marines launched from the Indomitable in a small transport shuttle. Pilot Wu had volunteered to fly them through the debris field. He navigated between chunks of shattered asteroids and pockets of intense radiation, his reflexes and instincts guiding him where instruments couldn't. Approaching the first ship, Wu announced, "Docking now." The shuttle connected with the transport. The Marines activated their suit's life support and opened the airlock. Immediately, alarms went off. The radiation levels were even worse than expected. Medic was the first one through. What he saw made him want to cry. The transport was designed for a gentle species living gentle lives. Everything was soft curves and pastel colors, except now it was a disaster zone. The walls were scorched from radiation. The lights flickered, and everywhere there were. They were tall and thin, with large eyes and delicate features. They looked like they might shatter if touched, and they were terrified. When they saw the Marines, massive figures in combat armor, many of them screamed. "It's okay," called out, removing his helmet despite the radiation. He wanted them to see his face, to see that he was just a person. "We're here to help. I'm a doctor." They stared at him. One of them, a male with pale blue skin, stepped forward. "You took off your helmet, the radiation." "I'll be fine for a few minutes," lied. He could already feel the radiation burning his skin. "Where are the wounded?" The blue led him to a makeshift medical area. There were dozens of injured, adults and children both. They had burns from the radiation, broken bones from when the ship was attacked, and the hollow-eyed look of people who had given up hope. Knelt next to a small child, no more than 5 years old in human terms. The child was crying quietly, holding a broken arm. "Hey there," said softly, "what's your name?" The child didn't answer, just stared at him with huge, frightened eyes. Reached into his medical kit and pulled out a pain reliever that was safe for biology. Dr. Bo had made sure they had the right medications. He administered it gently, then carefully stabilized the broken arm. "There you go," he said. "You're very brave." The child's crying slowed. Then, to his surprise, small fingers reached out and touched his hand. The child's skin was cool and felt as fragile as paper. Commander appeared at shoulder. "We need to move. We've got 18 minutes left on our suits." "Right," said. He stood and addressed the. "We're taking you to our ship. You need to trust us. We've made a safe place for you." "How do we know you won't hurt us?" someone asked. Looked at the child he had just treated. "Because if we wanted to hurt you, we wouldn't have come into this nightmare to save you." The evacuation began. Marines carefully lifted and carried them to the shuttle. They were impossibly gentle, these warriors who were trained to fight and kill. They cradled the fragile aliens like precious cargo. Young officer was helping evacuate the school transport. He was moving children, making multiple trips through radiation that was slowly cooking him alive. On his fourth trip, he found a family trapped in a collapsed section. "Hang on," called. He began pulling debris away, ignoring the radiation warnings in his helmet. The family was weak, barely conscious. They needed medical attention immediately. Looked at his suit's environmental display. His protection was failing. He had maybe 5 minutes left before the radiation would cause permanent damage. The family needed more time. He made his decision. He took off his helmet and gave it to the smallest child, a girl who was barely breathing. "Put this on her," he told the parents. "But you," the mother started to say. "I'm from us," said, giving her a crooked smile. "I can take it." He carried the family out, breathing the toxic air, feeling the radiation burn through him. By the time he got them to the shuttle, his skin was blistered and he was coughing blood. But the family was alive. Medic grabbed as soon as he came aboard. "You idiot, you gave away your helmet." "They needed it more," gasped. Back on the Indomitable, Sung watched the evacuees arrive in the modified cargo bay. The low gravity worked perfectly. They floated gently, their bones safe from the crushing pressure they feared. The atmosphere was right, the temperature was right. It was working. Dr. Bo was there with his medical team, treating injuries. He worked carefully, acutely aware of how fragile his patients were. What would be a firm grip to restrain a human patient could break us bones. Captain was one of the last to be evacuated. She floated into the cargo bay and looked around in wonder. The humans had done it. They had actually done it. They had created a safe haven in the middle of a warship. She watched as Medic, his skin burned and blistered from radiation exposure, sang a gentle song to calm a group of frightened children. She watched as massive Marines carefully moved injured to medical stations. She watched as Engineer Sung adjusted systems with the focused intensity of someone who refused to let anyone die on his watch. These were monsters from a planet of nightmares. And they were the most beautiful thing she had ever seen. Dr. Bo worked through the night, treating both refugees and his own crew. The injuries were different but equally serious. They suffered from radiation poisoning, dehydration, and trauma. The humans who had rescued them were burned, exhausted, and showing early signs of radiation sickness. Medic was one of the worst cases. He had spent too long without his helmet, breathing toxic air and absorbing radiation. But when Dr. Bo tried to make him rest, refused. "The children are still scared," said, his voice rough. "Someone needs to be with them." Bo watched through the medical bay window as floated into the section. Despite his injuries, the young medic moved carefully, gently. He gathered a group of children and began teaching them simple songs. His burned hands moved slowly, showing them games that didn't require gravity. One small girl, the one whose arm had set, stayed close to him. She held onto his sleeve and refused to let go. When an adult tried to take her away, saying the human needed rest, the girl shook her head stubbornly. "It's okay," said softly. "She can stay." Captain floated nearby, watching. She had spent her whole life afraid of humans. Everyone in the culture grew up with stories about They were giants who could crush your bones with a careless touch. They were warriors who had conquered a planet so dangerous that most species would die there within hours. They were monsters. But monsters didn't sing lullabies to frighten children. Monsters didn't sacrifice their own safety to save strangers. Lieutenant appeared at the entrance to the section, moving carefully in the reduced gravity. "Captain, I was hoping we could talk." Floated over to her. "Yes. I wanted to show you something," gestured for to follow. They moved through the ship, adjusting her movements to match slower pace. They ended up in the ship's observation deck. Through the large windows, the scorched nebula stretched out in all its deadly beauty, but wasn't looking at the nebula. She was looking at a display screen that showed the ship's casualty report. 12 of mine are in medical bay right now, said quietly. They have radiation burns, damaged lungs, and one of them might lose the sight in his left eye. That's the price we paid to save your people. Felt something cold in her chest. I'm sorry, I didn't know. Don't apologize, interrupted gently. I'm not telling you this to make you feel guilty. I'm telling you because I want you to understand something. She turned to face fully. We don't see this as a sacrifice. We see it as doing what's right. But why? Asked. We're nothing to you. We're not allies. We're not even friends. Most of my people think humans are terrifying. Smiled sadly. I know, but that doesn't change the fact that you needed help. She pulled up another screen, this one showing images of Earth. Saw vast oceans, towering mountains, dense forests. She saw storms that could level cities and predators that could kill with casual ease. This is ours, said. You're right that it's dangerous. It's a planet that seems designed to kill anything living on it. Extreme gravity, violent weather, deadly diseases, dangerous animals. Every other species looks at Earth and wonders how anything could survive there. So it's true, said softly. You are monsters. No, his voice was firm. We're survivors. There's a difference. Yes, we're strong because we had to be. Yes, we can endure things that would kill most species. But Earth also taught us something else. She zoomed in on an image of human children playing in the snow. It taught us that strength means nothing if you don't use it to protect others. Studied the image. The children looked happy, carefree, nothing like the warriors she had expected. Earth is harsh, continued. But humans aren't alone on Earth. We share it with millions of other species. We learned to take care of them. We learned that being strong means you have a responsibility to help those who are weaker. I never thought of it that way, admitted. Engineer Sung chose that moment to float into the observation deck, towing a piece of equipment. He stopped when he saw them. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt. Just need to fix a sensor array. It's fine, said. Captain, this is our chief engineer, Sung. Sung nodded respectfully then got to work on the sensor panel. As he worked, he talked. You know, Captain, your ships are really well designed. Efficient, elegant, beautiful, really. Was surprised, you think so? Absolutely, everything is smooth and optimized. Nothing wasted. Sung pulled a burnt circuit board out of the panel. Human ships aren't like that. We overbuild everything. Triple redundancies, backup systems for the backup systems, armor that's twice as thick as it needs to be. Why? Asked. Sung paused in his work. Because Earth taught us that everything breaks eventually, so we build things to survive the breaking. He grinned. Your ships are like works of art. Ours are like tanks. Different approaches for different worlds. He finished his repair and started to leave, then paused. Captain, I've been looking at your ship's sensor logs. Your people have some really impressive technology. That long-range scanning array you use is at least 20% more efficient than ours. Felt a small surge of pride. We've always been good with sensors. I was wondering, Sung said carefully, after we get you home safely, would you be willing to share some of that technology? In exchange, we could show you some of our defensive systems. Not weapons, he added quickly, seeing her expression. Just ways to survive in dangerous places. It was a peace offering realized, a way to turn this rescue into something more, a bridge between species. I would like that, she said. Over the next few hours, something remarkable happened. The Inhumans began to talk. At first it was awkward. The size difference alone was intimidating. A human in the low-gravity section was like a giant, and every movement had to be careful to avoid accidental collisions. But slowly, barriers came down. A teacher showed Lieutenant Hay how their educational systems worked. A human engineer explained to a curious student how the ship's engines functioned. Dr. Bow and a medical specialist exchanged information about treating radiation poisoning. Captain observed all of this from the bridge. He had been worried about how the two groups would interact, but he shouldn't have been. Put people together, give them a common challenge, and they would find ways to connect. "Captain," the communications officer called. "We're receiving a transmission. It's heavily encrypted and it's coming from outside the nebula." Felt his good mood evaporate. Source: unknown, but the encryption pattern matches the raiders we disabled. Lieutenant Hay came onto the bridge, summoned by the alert. She listened to the transmission and her face went pale. "Sir, it's a revenge fleet. The raider organization we just fought is sending reinforcements. They're threatening to destroy us and recapture the—" "How many ships?" "At least 6, maybe more. They'll be here in 4 hours." The bridge went quiet. 6 ships against 1. Bad odds even for humans. Stood, "Get Captain up here." When arrived, explained the situation. "I'm sorry, Captain. We defeated the raiders who attacked you, but apparently they've called for backup. A larger fleet is coming." Large eyes widened with fear. "What will you do?" "We'll fight them," said simply. "But I need to know something. Your people have those advanced sensors. Can you detect ships through this nebula better than we can?" Thought for a moment. "Yes. Our sensor technology was specifically designed for nebula navigation. We can track targets through interference that would blind your systems." "Then I have a proposal," said. "Help us fight. Your sensors are weapons. Together we might stand a chance." "You want us to go into combat?" asked, shocked. "We're not warriors." "No," agreed. "But you're survivors, and right now we all need to survive together." Floated there thinking. Her people had been rescued by these humans. These terrifying who turned out to be not so terrifying after all. They had bled for her people. They had sacrificed for strangers. "Yes," she said finally, "we'll help you." The next 4 hours were a blur of activity. Engineer Sung worked with technicians to integrate their sensor systems with the Indomitable's weapons arrays. It was a hack job, crude and done at speed, but it worked. The sensors could see through the nebula's interference. The human weapons could hit what they saw. Captain coordinated her people. Some of them were too injured or too young to help, but others volunteered. Sensor operators took positions in the ship's tactical center, working alongside human officers. The cultural barriers that had seemed so important yesterday didn't matter anymore. They had a common enemy. Pilot Wu and his squadron prepared their fighters. They had barely enough time to rearm and refuel between the rescue operation and the coming battle. Wu didn't complain. None of them did. This was what they signed up for. Dr. Bo set up triage stations throughout the ship. He knew casualties were coming. He just hoped he could save whoever got hurt. Medic was still with the children, but now he was teaching them something different. If the ship shakes or if the lights go out, you hold onto these bars. Keep your head down. Stay together. Can you do that? The children nodded seriously. The little girl who had attached herself to held his hand. "Will you protect us?" "Always," promised. On the bridge, Captain reviewed the tactical situation. 6 raider ships against his 1 warship. The raiders would have more firepower, more fighters, more everything. But they didn't have what the Indomitable had. They didn't have humans. And now, they didn't have allies. "Captain, the raider fleet is entering the nebula," Lieutenant Hay reported. "They're spreading out, trying to surround us." "Let them try," said. "Captain, can your sensors track all 6 ships?" Floating at a station modified for low gravity, studied her displays. "Yes, we have them all. Their formation is trying to use the asteroid field for cover." Sung, redirect power to forward shields and weapons. Tactical, prepare firing solutions on the lead ship. Wu, launch when ready. Throughout the ship, systems came online. The Indomitable transformed from rescue vessel to warship. It was what humans were good at, this adaptation. They could save lives one moment and fight wars the next. The fighters launched first. Wu led his squadron into the nebula, flying patterns that would have been impossible without sensor data guiding them. The Raider fighters met them halfway. The first engagement was brutal. Raider fighters swarmed the human squadron, trying to overwhelm them with numbers. But the humans flew like demons, using the asteroids and radiation storms as weapons. Wu lured 3 raiders into a pocket of intense radiation. Their shields failed. His didn't. Human shields were built for. Back on the Indomitable, the main battle began. The lead raider ship fired first, its weapons lighting up the nebula. The shots hit the Indomitable's shields and were absorbed. Human shields held. "Return fire," ordered. The Indomitable's weapons, guided by sensors, found their target despite the interference. The raider's shields collapsed and its hull took damage. The ship veered off, trailing atmosphere. "One down, 5 to go," Hayes said. 2 more raider ships came from above and below, trying to catch the Indomitable in a crossfire. It was a good tactic. It might have even worked against most ships. "Sensors detecting weak points in their hull armor," reported, her voice steady despite her fear. "Transmitting coordinates now." "Tactical target those points," ordered. The Indomitable's guns fired with precision that shouldn't have been possible through the nebula's interference. But sensors didn't care about interference. They saw everything, and human weapons hit everything they saw. Both raider ships took critical damage. One lost its engines, the other lost its weapons array. They drifted helpless. 3 down, Sung reported from engineering. "But Captain, our shields are at 60%. We can't take many more hits." "Understood. How long until the shields recharge?" "In this radiation, maybe never. We're taking constant damage just being here." "Made a decision. Then we end this fast. Helm, take us straight at the remaining raiders, full speed." The bridge crew looked at him like he was crazy. Charging 3 warships was suicide. But Captain understood. "They won't expect it. They think we'll be cautious." "Exactly," said. "Tactics, we're already in hell, might as well run toward the demons." The Indomitable surged forward, accelerating to speeds that made the ship groan. The remaining 3 raider ships hesitated, confused by the aggressive move. That hesitation cost them. Sensors found weaknesses. Human weapons exploited them. Fighter pilots harried the raiders from all angles, never giving them time to coordinate. Engineer Sung redirected every spare bit of power to weapons, ignoring safety protocols that would have made any other species' engineers faint. Commander and his Marines stood ready at the airlock in case any raiders tried to board. They wouldn't board. They couldn't. The Indomitable was moving too fast, fighting too hard. One raider ship broke formation and ran. Pilot Wu pursued, his fighter dancing through radiation that should have killed him. He disabled the raider's engines with a perfect shot and let it drift. The last 2 raiders made a final stand. They positioned themselves back to back and poured everything they had into their attack. Their weapons hammered the Indomitable's shields. "Shields at 30%, Sung called out. "We can't take another volley like that." "We won't have to," said. He turned to, "Captain, I need you to find me a kill shot. One shot to end this." His fingers moved across her console. We're not warriors. They had never been warriors, but they understood survival. And right now, survival meant helping the humans win. "I have it," she said. "The ship on the left has a power conduit exposed near the port engine. If you hit it at the right angle, it will cascade through their entire power grid." "Tactical," you heard her. "One shot, make it count." The tactical officer lined up the shot. It was nearly impossible. A small target through interference on a moving ship. No computer could make this shot. But the officer wasn't using just computers. She was using sensors and human instincts. The combination was devastating. She fired. The shot struck true. The raider's power conduit exploded, and the cascade began exactly as had predicted. The entire ship went dark, dead in space. The last raider ship's captain saw his entire fleet defeated. He did the smart thing. He surrendered. "Cease fire," ordered. "Hey, contact the raider ship. Tell them if they try anything at all, we'll finish this." The battle was over. 6 raider ships disabled or destroyed. 0 human fatalities. The refugees safe. In the low-gravity section, Medic heard the cheering from the rest of the ship and smiled. The little girl looked up at him. "We won." "Yeah," said, his voice rough with exhaustion and radiation damage. "We won." Dr. Bo came to check on him later. "You need proper treatment. That radiation exposure is serious." "I know," said, "but it was worth it." Captain stood on the bridge as the Indomitable began the slow journey out of the nebula. They were towing the disabled ships and guarding the captured raiders. It would take time to get everyone to safety, but they had time now. Captain came to see him. "Captain, I've been sending reports to my government. They want to meet with you. They want to thank you personally." "That's not necessary," began. "Yes, it is," interrupted gently. "You need to understand what you've done. For generations, my people have feared humans. We told stories about the monsters from the harsh world. Those stories are changing now." "What will you tell them?" asked. Thought carefully. "I'll tell them the truth. Yes, you're stronger than us, more durable than us. Yes, you can survive things that would kill us." She paused. "But I'll also tell them that you walked through fire to carry us to safety. You bled in the void so our children could breathe. You risked everything for strangers." She pulled up a display that showed video footage from the rescue. Humans carefully carrying through radiation. Medics singing to frightened children. Marines working past exhaustion to save everyone. "I'll tell them that aren't monsters," said. "They're guardians, and we're lucky to have them." News of the rescue spread fast. By the time the Indomitable reached the nearest station, it was famous. The story resonated across the galaxy. The terrifying humans, the ones everyone feared, had risked everything to save people who weren't even their allies. The government proposed a formal alliance. The first joint program would combine sensor technology with human defensive systems. It would be called the Guardian Initiative. Pilot Wu was interviewed by Galactic News Services. "Aren't you afraid of being seen as weak?" a reporter asked. You're supposed to be scary." Wu laughed. "We're from a planet that tries to kill us every day. We fight hurricanes, earthquakes, and predators that can swallow us whole. You think we care about looking tough?" He shook his head. "We know what real strength is. It's protecting people who can't protect themselves." Back on the Indomitable, Lieutenant asked Captain if he thought this would change Earth's reputation. Looked out at the stars. "We'll always be he said. "That won't change. The galaxy will always see us as the ones who survived the impossible." "But now they know what that means," said. "Yes," agreed. "Now they know. Being doesn't make you a monster. It makes you someone who understands survival. And the first rule of survival is that you don't abandon anyone." The little girl who had attached herself to Medic was being reunited with her family. As she left, she turned back and waved. Waved back, wincing at the pain from his radiation burns. "Worth it?" Dr. Bo asked. Watched the girl disappear into the crowd of happy reunions. Every second of it. The Indomitable set course for Earth, its mission complete. Behind it, it left a changed galaxy. Humans were still. They were still from the harsh world. They were still stronger and tougher than most species. But now the galaxy knew the truth. They weren't monsters. They were exactly what the universe needed them to be. They were protectors, they were rescuers, they were guardians. And they didn't abandon anyone.